Hello friends, in this video tutorial I am going to demonstrate how you can create a Power BI report to display vouchers of any ledgers from Tally data. So over to my screen. Let me walk you through all the softwares and subscriptions I'm using. So I'm using Tally Prime. Now unfortunately I'm not in the office, so I'm forced into an educational version, but anyway, it will not hamper export activity because I would be entering from 1st March to 31st April of any financial year. So I have chosen financial year 17-18. It's historical data. Then I have Microsoft SQL Server Express Edition 2019 version installed in this PC. Okay, so it is not on the cloud, it is locally installed in this PC. And on the Power BI side, so I installed a Power BI gateway to connect my SQL Server data with Power BI's cloud uh, service. Okay, so let me walk you through that also. So okay, so I am using Power BI gateway. So it is a standard mode gateway which connects my SQL Server to my Power BI service. Okay, and I am using Power BI premium per user license. Okay, so if you go to this page, so it is pricing is roughly around 1440 at the time when I shot the video, and if you purchase through any of the Microsoft reseller, you would be getting it even in very lower cost. Okay, now one more thing, I would not be using Power BI desktop software. Okay, because just imagine that Tally, okay, and my Power BI gateway is somewhere in my office, okay, and I am working somewhere else. So I have created that scenario where you would not be allowed, or you may not be able to access your SQL server installed in the main office server where Tallies and database server is installed. Okay, with Power BI premium per user. Okay, so this specific plan has one big good feature wherein you can create your reports without using Power BI desktop, which relies on your machine, so that you need to have SQL server on your machine itself. Otherwise, you need to shift database server to cloud. Then it can work. Okay. Okay. Now let me export this data from Tally to my Microsoft SQL server. Okay. So let me go to the utility and show you the config file. Okay, so you can see financial year 17-18. Okay, and it is in localhost, and schema or database name is TallyDB. Okay, so let me run this utility which will export the data for FY 17-18. Okay, let's wait. Okay, so data is imported successfully because error log is 0 pubis. We need to create a workspace first. Okay, so if you click on this workspace icon here, okay, you can see, so by default I am on default workspace. Okay, so I'll have to click create workspace. So you require Power BI Pro or premium license to create any workspace. Okay, I will create workspace by name, let's say test company, and if I click here and go to advanced, I can see few options like, now if you are using Pro, again you would not be seeing this premium page. Okay, so I'll be creating premium per user workspace. Okay, let me click save and create a workspace. Okay, test company. So if you click here, I can see all the workspace here, all my workspace here. Now next step is creating a data mart. Okay, so data mart is something which is available only in premium per user. Okay, so if I click new, I will find data mart. Okay, we'll click here. So data mart, you can imagine it's sort of a database, okay, on cloud, which can collate data from your SQL Server, Excel, and many of data sources and combine it and make reports. Okay, so I will currently pull data from SQL Server, which is there on my local machine. Okay, so in data gateway, I will have to choose my data gateway so that it will connect to my local SQL Server. So server name is localhost, as you saw in configuration file, and database name is tallydb, same like a configuration file, and authentication. So we need to choose basic, username SA, and whatever password you have entered, same like your configuration file. Let me click next to create it. So let's wait. Okay, now here I require 3 tables for this report. So first one I would require ledger table. Okay, so I'll select this, so it would show me a preview of this table. Then voucher table, which is having summary, or I can say each details of all the transactions or vouchers. And next, accounting effects of all the vouchers, that means debit and credit ledgers along with amount. Okay, and I will then click transform. Okay, now we need to do some cleanup activity. Okay, like in ledger table, okay, you would find many unnecessary columns which we don't require. So let us remove those columns, like GUID. So for ledger we don't require. Remove columns. Alter ID, I can delete it. Okay, then this again system generated thing. Alias I don't require. This one is required. Is revenue, dim positive. Okay, and remaining fields, all this. So I'm selecting all those fields and deleting it. Okay, I think this is good. Then voucher table. Now for voucher table we require GUID. Okay, because that is a connecting field for our accounting effects. Alter ID we don't require. I can safely remove it. All the system generated field except GUID you can remove this. Reference number I am not interested. Even currently in party name, and I am not interested. I will remove all this except is voucher number, because it tells whether it is a sales or purchase order voucher or not. Okay, I think this one is good. Then from accounting table, GUID fine. Again we don't require this underscore fields and these 2 columns. So these are applicable if you have multi-currency accounting. So I don't require this because this is for only Indian concept. Okay, now in this accounting table, I also require 2 more fields along with this. Okay, so in amounts, minus means debit and plus means credit. Okay, for reporting purpose, it would be better to have 2 columns called debit and credit. Okay, which are the copies of this column. So I will go to add columns and add these 2 columns separately. So one is my debit column. So if this amount is less than 0, then multiply this amount with minus. Okay, that means change minus sign to positive, else 0. Okay, so this is, friends, Power Query expression. So it is very similar to our Excel one, and data type this can contain decimal number. Click OK and insert that column. Okay, same way I will insert column for credit. Okay, if double click here, amount is greater than 0, because credit would always be positive, then simply write that amount. Otherwise that means it is debit, write 0, and data type is decimal. Click OK, and so you can see wherever minus is there, you can see positive amount in debit and plus positive amount in credit. Okay, so we are good with this. So let me click and save this. So now this is capturing all data from SQL Server on my local machine and transferring this data to again a backend SQL Server for Datamart, which is there on Azure. Now I don't have to purchase separate SQL Server subscription of Azure because premium subscription is already providing that in the backend. Okay, let me rename this Datamart. So this is containing accounting related data. So I can say, okay, I can simply ignore this. Accounting data, and I will click here and this is saved. Okay. Okay, so our data mart is created with all the data loaded. Now, next step is modeling of this data. So we cannot directly create report using this data because if you notice this data is spread across multiple tables. Okay. So we need to establish a relationship between this. So now I need to go to this model window and I need to tell Power BI relationship between all this data. Okay. So let me nicely arrange these tables. Okay, so now I first need to connect both the transaction table. Okay, now for each row of this transaction, okay, voucher table, you would find at least two rows. Okay, one for debit and one for credit, or even more. Let's say you have two debits and credit in the ledger. So I'll have to tell Power BI that there is a one-to-many relationship between this table, and the connecting field or column is GUID. Okay, so I will click here from this voucher. So this is one and this is many. Okay, so I'll click on this GUID and drag it on this GUID. Okay, and moment I release, it would open a relationship window. Okay, now by default many times it detects a wrong relationship. So this is a one to many. Okay, you can see on the left hand side voucher table, and for one row of voucher you will at least find two or more rows for accounting effects. So it is one to many. Assume referential integrity. You need to enable this because if you don't click here, Power BI thinks that there can be a scenario that you would find row in accounting table for which no row would be there in voucher table, but this cannot exist. Okay, practically this cannot exist. So I will click assume referential integrity so that it refers or safely relates this like this. Okay, I will click confirm. Okay, now you can see this relationship established. Okay, now again in accounting table ledger names are written. So this ledger name is written in ledger field of this accounting table, and for this corresponding table is ledger. Okay, so again in one to relationship terminology, for each ledger, okay, for each single row of ledger I can find multiple rows in accounting table because you can use a ledger in many of the transactions or vouchers of Tally. So name and ledger. So this is one and this is many. So I'll drag this name field and relate it with ledger. Again one to many and assume referential integrity. So it cannot happen that for any ledger a master was not created in Tally. So you cannot actually do this in Tally, that you cannot pass an entry without creating any ledger. So this is something impossible. So I will say assume referential integrity because Tally is taking care of all these things. So let me click confirm. Okay, again one to many. So we are done with the modeling phase. Okay. Now let's start creating report with this data mart. Okay, so I will create or click on this new report button. So this we launch it in new window. So I will collapse this. So let us make room for this. Again, click here and hide this. Okay, now this. So header. So I would not make very beautiful reports because I'm not good in that. So very raw level reports, mostly concentrating on the logic and how to create. Okay, so let me insert text box with header. Okay, company header, or you can also mention name of the report as per your wish, whatever you want. So say XYZ Limited. So since this is a company name in my case, let me middle align it, increase its font. I just select and increase this font. Okay, 16, and let me change background color of this. If I go to effect, background color, let's say something like this, and my text needs to be white color. No, that looks good. Okay, now I would start with first drop down for ledger. Okay, so this is a slice. Slicer is filter, or in our case it would function like a drop down. Okay, now I need to drag a field for drop down. So I want ledger name filter. So I'll expand this and drag this name field in this window. Okay, so this would populate a list of ledgers. Okay, I'll click on this triple dot and enable a search bar. Okay, and let me convert it to drop down instead of list, and let's rename this field as ledger. Okay, ledger. Okay, so let's select cache ledger. Cache. Okay, I can select like this, so that when I prepare uh, table, I have only cache vouchers. Okay, cache ledger to compare it with this tally. Okay, now I require table for this portion. Okay, for this portion. So I'll click on this table. Now technically this is in Power BI terms, they call it as a table, but in Excel terminology, it is actually sort of pivot report. Okay, it always summarizes. It doesn't display uh, each row. Okay, it always tries to summarize it. So you will come to notice when I drag anything. Okay, okay. Now in this I required fields date, then voucher type, voucher number, ledger name, debit, credit. Okay, so I will slightly change the presentation or order of the columns. So date is available in voucher table. Let me drag this and release it here. Okay, date. Next, I will drag voucher type. Okay, if you notice, now there is not a, so on 1st April, 2nd April, so I have multiple transaction on 1st, 2nd, 3rd, but as you know, this is not a table internally but a pivot table. So I have to drag all those fields which will make this as a unique row, because it is currently trying to summarize. Okay, so date itself is not a unique field, so now I will have to drag few more fields to this. Okay, so I will have to drag voucher type also, then voucher number. Okay, now this combination is unique. Date, voucher type and voucher number, these three fields make a unique row. Okay, now if I can compare with this, so I have multiple transaction of first. Okay, similarly you can find this. Now few more fields I need to drag, after that it would be streamlined. Okay, now next is party ledger. So in accounting table I would find, so ledger name. Now don't get confused. Okay, I will get back to this, that why only cash is appearing. Debit and credit. Now if you notice, it is summarizing. Okay, it is summarizing this thing. Now you would be confused that why in ledger cash is stated, because naturally I have applied filter, okay, to cash. Now this is not like a tally. Okay, this is not like a tally. So tally is internally is displaying, let's say if it is a cash is credited, it is displaying the ledger by which it is debited. Okay, and if it finds multiple ledger account, so it displays something like this. Okay, displays something like this. So I will exit detail view. Okay, something like this. So internally there are multiple ledgers here. Okay, but Power BI doesn't know which ledgers are into your debit or credit. Okay, because by default for it, in each row only cash ledger was selected due to this filter. Now we will see how to deal with this. Okay. Okay, now this thing or opposite ledger by which it is debited or credited can be means derived using measures. Okay, so I'll have to go to modeling view. Okay, so I will have to create a measure which will tell me that by which ledger it is debited or credited, or reverse ledger or opposite ledger. Okay, so let me insert that measure inside accounting table. Okay, so I'll click here and click new measure. So measure is again related to summarization. Okay, so it can summarize anything. So let me name this measure as opposite ledger. Okay, is equal to, now it is not like Excel formula which needs to be in single line. So I can always press shift enter and shift to next line. So first I will have to create variables. Okay, so variable current GUID. Okay, so now for this procedure is that I'll have to remove all the filters. For each row I'll have to remove all the filters, then again apply filter which will select my current transaction, and I will again have to apply next filter which will select the ledger except cash in our current scenario. Okay, so I need to capture these two things in variables, because measure runs or calculates for every row of that this thing, our row of the report. Okay, so current GUID is, now max is something related to mathematical, so it gives highest number. Okay, but again GUID is a textual thing, so max in this scenario works like as a first row. Okay, first row of this. So in braces GUID. Now we know that in this any of the transaction GUID will appear once, because we have one row for every transaction. So naturally we know output of this is only single row, so we will have only single value. But again Power BI doesn't know this, so we will have to tell him in with the help of max. Okay, again I will create next variable called ledger name, because measure is not aware which ledger you have selected in this filter. Okay. Again max, that means whichever ledger which you have selected. Now we know we have selected cash ledger only, so it will return only one row, and max would be selecting that row only. Now you may not understand this at this point, I will clarify it later. Okay, and after that we need to return. Okay, so calculate is another function. Again max, that means first row of the ledger. Okay, comma. Now this one is important. So filter, apply filter. So this is being executed for every transaction or voucher row. Okay, Now, during this calculation, I need to do two things. First, I need to remove filter, okay, remove filter so that all the transactions are available, and then I need to apply two filters, GUID or unique transaction number, transaction ID, and so this is the first filter, and second filter is then select all those rows excluding cache. Ledger is cache here. Okay, so I will have to first remove filter. So all will remove the filter from this table called TRN accounting comma filter expression. I will have to, so this thing first remove the filter so that all the rows are available for this calculate. Okay, not for all this, only for calculate. And after that I'll have to reapply two filters. So I will say where current GUID is equal to whatever GUID is double and is double and current ledger. So this will select only specific transaction of that row when execution for that voucher, and next filter you will be left with two transaction where you are, let's say, debited or credited with cash. Okay, now I want only that row to stay where cash ledger is not used. Okay, cash ledger is not used. So I will say that select all those rows where ledger is not equal to cash. So in CURR ledger, cash value is there. Okay, so where ledger is not equal to cash. Okay, I'll complete both the brackets and I'll press enter. So let's check if our accounting table, yes, opposite ledger. So this measure was created. Okay, now we will add, now since this is not reflected, you may have to press this refresh. Don't refresh entire window. Okay, so I'll click refresh here, and okay, this measure is now available. Now let me drag this. Okay, so I'll click here, and I want to drag it. So I'll remove this ledger and instead drag it in this position. Okay, I'll nicely drag it here. Okay, in between this. Okay, now we get whatever ledger by which, like, if it is credited, cash is credited, then it is debited by which one. Okay, and this order may not match your with your order in Tally. Okay, that order slightly might be jumbled up. Okay, like in Tally it is ordered by voucher number 2 3 4 5 6. This, I think, it is picking now it has converted it to text. Okay, voucher number. Tally converted it to number, so that why serial numbering of voucher number has changed. Okay, so that might be. So let me verify for 2 3 voucher number 10. So it cash is credited by 11,500 and debited by ledger called Mysore Machinery. Voucher number 10. Okay, debited by Mysore Machinery. Again, it is picking up the first ledger. So if it is debited or credited by multiple ledgers, whichever ledger after excluding cash from it, cash ledger line from it, whichever ledger comes at the first line, okay, comes first, is taken by this measure. Okay, so again there you might have mismatch with the Tally, but accounting effect wise or amount wise it would not change. Okay, so that's, we are done with this portion. Okay, now let me give some finishing touches to it. Okay, not a fully final, means final level finishing, some basic level of finishing you can say. Okay, some renamings like this. Let's say we want to rename this column headers. So you can click here and rename it date. Then okay, you can see type of voucher. Okay, then voucher number, VCH number. Then likewise a ledger. Then debit. and credit. And if you want, you can also add narration. You can also drag narration column here. Okay. Currently, I am not dragging it. Okay. So some of the renamings, you can resize it something like this. Okay. I guess some mistake in renaming. So it is credit. Sorry. Okay. And let's say format changing. Okay. So number format seems correct. Let's say I want date to be formatted as DDMM YYYY. So I will go to again in modeling window. Okay, and here for voucher I want date in this format. Okay, DDMM, or you can type your custom format also. Okay, so now this doesn't get means reflected in real time because it is a browser based. In Power BI desktop it happens in real time. In this Power BI cloud based browser version you have to do it manually. So I'll again press refresh button for all the modeling changes. Okay, so you can see date format being changed, and if you want you can remove the bottom one. Okay, bottom one, net debit credit, or you can remove footer for specific column wise also. Okay, specific column wise you can say, let's say I don't want this for ledger. Okay, because again this is not a sensible thing. Because this is in some different one. Column header, and somewhere there is footer option. Let me check. Or subtotals, totalings. Okay, that would be available by name of total. Okay, currently I will disable the totalings because that is not giving perfectly for ledger, because that doesn't make sense. And I guess you can, if you can explore, you can apply column footers. Okay, total specific column wise also. Okay, specific column wise also can later on. Okay, so now this looks good. Let me rename this. So this is ledger account. Okay, this report is name ledger account. Let me save this report. Save this report by name, let's say ledger report. And now you can see this. Let me close this and go to my workspaces. So you can see this ledger reports. So now if I go to content, all the reports would be available. Okay. Now let's attempt to change data in Tally and check if this effects automatically travels to this data mart or not. So this would not be happening on a real-time basis. So you'll have to schedule it. Okay. So I will, let's say, let me open this ledger report, and filter is applied for cash ledger. Okay. Mysore machinery 11,500. Okay. Now if I go to this, okay. Now let's edit this. Okay. Let's edit transaction amount of this. So it is 11,500. So let me make this transaction for, let's say, 15,000. Okay, 15,000. Control A, and let me pass this. Okay, 15,000. Now don't expect a real time refresh, and don't be amazed that this refresh button is not working. Okay, now you have affected uh, change in Tally. Okay, but this is yet to be synchronize to the database, and from database this need to be synchronized to Datamart. Okay, so now if you refresh, you would not get this. Okay, it is still 11,500 because our changes are still inside tally, not I have gone to database. Okay, so I think let me get back to the workspace. Okay, now I need to schedule this. Okay, so I need to schedule this. So now if I run this, this data would synchronize to our database server, SQL database server. Now you have two options. You can either do it manually by clicking run, and if you want it to automatically run, you can always do this using task scheduler. So using task scheduler, you can set up a automatic synchronization. Okay, I have already demonstrated this how to set up a scheduled synchronization in one of the video. So you find that video link in the description of this YouTube video. Okay, currently I will just right click, means double click here, run, and synchronize this to database. Later on, using that, referring to this video, you can synchronize it. So that would automatically run this every hour, 2 hour, or every day at specified time. Okay, so it has synchronized this data to SQL Server. But friends, this you can automate or schedule it. But now next scheduling requires for database, SQL Server database to our Datamart. Okay, because Datamart has historical data. Okay, now let me demonstrate. So even if you now go to Ledger report and refresh this, you would still have older one. Okay, it is still 11,500 because our Datamart has not been refreshed. Okay, I'll click here. Okay, so now this Datamart I need to refresh. Okay, you need to refresh this Datamart. Okay, let me check where is the refresh button. Let to refresh this window. Okay, this is a refresh. Okay, now either I can click here or I can put a schedule of this. Currently I will click here refresh now, so that this data would be picked up from my SQL Server database, which is on my local machine or server where Tally is installed, and this would pull synchronized data from SQL Server of my machine into Datamart or backend SQL Server of the Power BI. Okay, so this is refreshing. Let it refresh. So don't worry, this might seem manual currently, but after that you can apply complete automated synchronization. Okay, okay, let's check. So I have synchronized. Now let me again open this Ledger report and let's check. Okay, you can see, so this has changed to 15,000. Okay, because our Datamart refreshed. So you can go to this and you can apply automated synchronization. Okay, let me demonstrate you that also in next portion. Now, how to schedule this automatic synchronization of SQL Server data into your Datamart. Okay, this Datamart. So I can click here. Okay, this will launch menu, and I will go to settings. Okay, and in this Datamart setting, you will find a option called scheduled refresh. Okay, let me expand it. Currently it is off. It is ad hoc. So let me make it automatic. Okay, so daily, weekly, and again inside daily you can schedule every hour or specific timings. Okay, so time zone is our UTC plus means Indian time zone, and you can schedule this like, let's say you know that every day, let's say at 7 p.m. evening 7 or 8 p.m. I have updated data in the tally. Okay, at 00 p.m. Okay, so I can apply this so that every day at a clock it would be synchronized. Okay, apply this, and I can add multiple timing. So in this premium feature, you can schedule at the max 48 refresh every day. That means every half an hour. Okay, 48 refresh in for 28 hours. So you can 8, 8:30 like that, or you can specify multiple timings. I would suggest that specify specific timings, 4 to 5 or 3 to 4 timings, maybe at somewhere at the morning, maybe at during the lunch break, and somewhere in the evening. That is something advisable. Okay. Okay. This way you can schedule your refresh. So it would be automatically synchronizing the data. But you always have to ensure that your server machine where Tally is there and your SQL Server is there, it should remain on. Okay, it should not turn off. Okay, friends, now you might wonder that where is the opening and closing thing. Okay, opening balance, closing balance. So friends, in this data we actually cannot insert a opening and closing balance row. Okay, so I would be creating cards or simply box, means text for opening and closing balance. Okay, so this is a agenda for our next video, that how to create and insert those field for opening balance and closing balance, and there are many more things we would be covering, like in next video, let's say date filters from to range. Okay, so that would all we also be covering. So this is not a complete, so this is just one of the video of the series. Okay, I know this was a very long video, but friends, story is not over. Many things are yet to be done. Okay, so assume this as a series. Okay, so few more things I would be covering in the next or coming videos, which you would find on my channel. Okay, so till that, please try this, and you always have this trial version. Okay, so you can subscribe to the trial version wherein you can get premium per user. And you might be wondering why I didn't use Power BI desktop. Okay, so you can also do all these things in Power BI desktop. Procedure would be slightly different because in Power BI desktop you would find slightly different menus. Okay, and arrangement of the menus would be slightly different. Okay, now the objective behind this was, so I had a theme, okay, wherein you would have your Tally data in your Office server, Tally and SQL data in your Office server, and I assume that you might not have access to that. Okay, with Power BI desktop, I am always locked to work in that server PC. Okay, so I want to have, so number one, that ease of creating reports from anywhere. Number two, second agenda advantage I can say with this you get is that Power BI desktop is available only for Windows PC. Okay, but this, since this is a browser based, you can create, means, or design your reports right from your MacBook also. Okay, MacBook or any of the open source Chromebook, any of the thing you can like. Okay, third advantage is that I can say that this is a browser based. Okay, so this is a fully cloud based, so it is not depending on my office infrastructure. So that's it. So please try this, and let's meet in the next video.